Hi there. Come on in, check in. Simone here. So happy that you're joining us today. Welcome back to our Push Past 10 platform, where we're all about having those conversations that move Dominica and the Caribbean region forward. So again, come on in, share the live. We're actually waiting Mr. Jason Fontaine. He was just with us a minute ago. But he will be right back. Come on in, share the live. Let everyone know that we are here. You know, there is quite a fever pitch in Dominica right now. There is quite some energy in Dominica right now as it surrounds the election. So I think it was it last week at this time? November 6th, when we were all shocked into the reality that a snap election had been called for Dominica. And I want to get your reaction. I want to get your reaction to what is going on in Dominica right now with the snap election. You know, we get about 16,000 viewers on this platform every month. So 16,000 viewers every month on this platform. And we just want to make sure that we're using it to the benefit of Dominicans at home and abroad. So Mr. Jason Fontaine has decided to join us today as he tells us why he decided to throw his hat into the race for the election for December 6, 2022. And he will tell us why he decided to jump in, what are his plans, what he's already accomplished for the Lapland Dalis area, and what he hopes to accomplish for his constituency. So again, come on in, share the live, let everyone know that we are here for another conversation. We are looking forward to your feedback, to your questions, to your concerns, as we always do on this program. So give me 1 minute, let me reach out to Jason just to make sure he can come back in. He's not having any technical difficulties. And let's enjoy some Nasir Fontaine while we await our guests.
Yeah. Living in the positive. And I know good.
Okay, so Jason is here. Hi, Jason. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm well. I went ahead and shared it, so you don't have to worry about sharing that. I'll just share it to your page as well, so that everyone who's tuning in on your page will be able to see the program live and will be able to make a contribution. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a brave soul there and throwing in your hat in for a candidate for the elections for 2022, December 6th. And just kind of tell us a little bit about who you are so people can get to know you a little bit better. And just tell us about the current mood on the ground in Dominica right now.
Well, you know, Dominica has been going through a lot for elections and trying to get electoral reform. Everybody's one voice. They don't want no elections until the electoral reform. But the momentum right now on the ground is election fever. The Labour Party is campaigning. They're spending a lot of money. They have different candidates that they are launching. In St. Joseph today, they have all different parts of Dominica. Sorry. It's amazing to see how the Dominica Labour Party are spending lots of money to independent candidates. Red flags, shirts, T-shirts, giving private transportation monies and gasolines, and the bribery continues, and the momentum to the Labour Party, the fever of the motorcades, by this spending money and giving free gas, free food, just to get the election or to make. I think they're doing this for photo op, to show the world that that the population is with the Labour Party, which is totally not true. The outcome of the December 6th election can be very, 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 very eyes watching to wait actually to see. So this is what's happening now while we are the independent candidates are campaigning and are doing what they're supposed to do, getting ready as we have a short time left. TUD, which is Team Unity, myself, which I represent, part of my team. So It's good. It's a good feeling. We are excited. There is a lot of adrenaline, a rush. The Labour Party in some constituencies are very worried, especially in La Plaine constituency, and the Grand Fort River Cyric constituency are up for grabs this time around. So they are pouring the entire cabal of the Dominica Labour Party on this area on the East Coast. That is the fever of what's going on. The Prime Minister is
Yes.
making it on Monday and on Tuesday as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. Now, just kind of tell us, because we know that recently the East Coast, where you are, La Plaine, Dailies, Boetica, Castle Bruce, up and down the East Coast, you guys experienced quite a tragedy with the rains and the landslides. So kind of just tell us the state of the area right now, and if there's any activity in terms of rehabilitation, anything being done for all the destruction that happened in your area.
Well, on a disaster level, which I'm the disaster chairman of the Lapland Disaster Preparedness Management Committee, which I still am, and also as a member of the Lapland Village Council, I can report to the audience that we are still in a devastated, destroyed area. Some bridges have been compromised. Some areas, bulldozers has come down. Some rock landslide. They have been cleared. We have some private company bulldozers, caterpillars, or excavators are on the road as we speak, clearing up some to the normal commuters that goes to work every day in town. School, no, Castle Secondary School should be resuming tomorrow face-to-face, which is a chance they'll be taking, and some parents are sending their children back to school in that kind of condition. But nevertheless, there were instructions, whether it's the rain starts to fall again or it begins to rain again, they must make their way back home because we are prone to flooding and heavy landslides. But the roads are compromised. Odalis, the bottom of Odalis, if we get any heavy rain again, that's it. We are cut off. The Rosalie Bridge has been compromised, temporarily blocked the hole so we can pass. So it's been weakened, as I can say. And overall, the infrastructure part of the roads, some of the areas have been weakened. And we are on the side of the island where we receive a lot of rainforest rain, a lot of showers, heavy flooding. So yeah, but we are coping with it and we are dealing with it, but it is not as pleasant as it is on the north side or the Roseau side. But yes, we are.
Yeah, so you're pretty much taking it
Still,
one day at a time.
Sightseeing for you to see how what water can do.
So kind of just tell us, Jason, why you
Pretty
decided
much,
to throw your hat into the ring of being a candidate for these elections.
A very good question.
Yeah, I think your internet is hiccuping. Yeah, let's give him a minute.
Up to
Go ahead.
I'm trying to ask myself that question. But you know, my record speaks for itself. I always knew I never, as I raised my father and my mother, they have raised me the best way possible. My dad was a police officer. Yeah, if you can hear me.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, we can hear you. Let's give him a minute. Yeah, I think you might have to log off and log back in as someone is suggesting, because we can't seem to hear you. So I'm not sure if the laptop came that you were talking about, but you may have to log out and log back in. because your internet seems to be a little bit unstable. So in the meantime, guys, let us take in some music from Nasio Fontaine, one of our favorite artists out of Dominica, while we try to figure out what is going on with Jason's internet. So stay tuned. Let me get some music going and just kind of tell us how you're feeling about all this election talk. I think at this point, honestly, what most people just want to hear is what can be done to stop the elections. So I think we're hearing a lot of talk about, boycott the elections, boycott the elections. But I think what most people are trying to hear right now is just how do we stop the elections? So let's take a listen to Nasir Fontaine as we wait for Jason to come back in.
How good it is to see your glory rising early in the morning. So early in the morning, pleasant it is to hear the birds them singing. To know another day is dawning, another day is dawning. Want you know, give thanks and praises for His mercies, for Your mercies towards humanity. Yeah. Want you know, give thanks and praises for His glory, for Your glory towards humanity. Sata Masagiana. I'm gonna tell you one more time, yes. Behold, Jah is mighty, and then His mercy's got no end. No end. Your weeping may endure through the night, but then joy cometh in the morning light. What you know? Give thanks and praises for His glory, for Your glory towards humanity. Yeah. Want you know? Give thanks and praises for His mercies, for Your mercies towards humanity. Lord, present for the herb that grows, and the wind and the breeze that blows. Oh, give Your praises when you give Your thanks and praises. Praise Him in the morning time, praise Him in the evening time. You hear what I say? When you give Your thanks and praise Him. Thank you, Lord, for everything You've done for me. Thank you for the victory. I'm giving thanks and praises. When you give Your thanks and praises, praising for the birds and the trees and the fish.
Yeah, unmute your mic. Let's try again. Yes. So you were just telling us why you decided to run for this election.
Right. You see, I've been a current community-oriented person for many years. Been a member of the Lappin Village Council for a while. Been in disaster preparedness, and too many times I've seen the irregularities take place in my constituency of different power reps behind power. People been used for elections and given red T-shirts, money. But after they get into office, they are just being lied to, made promises, broken promises. Too much of the same. Too much of the old
Mhm.
politics and too much of the same. So, a power rep should be a person of the people and for the people and with the people. And not like you have your vehicle and you just have your windows up and your darkers and you're ignoring when people are making appointments to see you and you're just making promises of things that you don't have. You have to be with the people, especially when some people they pray that when some ration come to the table, they will be able to give you some money to buy some things that you don't have.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And just tell us some of the accomplishments that you've already accomplished in your area, in terms of what you've already done for your community. Okay, guys, let's take a minute. I think Jason's internet is not the greatest connection. In the meantime, let us say good evening to Merlin Alfred, Anfair, Laskip, Finella Prosper, Emmanuel Finn, Viva Mamo is here with us. So, guys, thank you for being here. Don't forget to share the live as you come in. Octave Eagle Mike, nice to see you. Let's see. Viva Mamo says, Jason, whereas all the reasons are valid during a normal election cycle, they are worthless at this juncture under the present political conditions. So while we wait for Jason to reconnect with us, let's just get a sense of how everyone is feeling. As for me, I'm feeling quite overwhelmed with everything that is going on in Dominica, because I think what we are seeing is that while the elections is legal, we're all saying, well, it's not necessarily moral. So I think that kind of speaks to the character of the person who would call an elections, which is not necessarily moral, and if that person can be trusted. But guys, I think at the end of the day, what it boils down to is if your belly is empty and one person is offering you something in exchange for a vote, you're more likely to go with that person, because at the end of the day, we have to feed ourselves and we have to feed our children, right? So I think that is what we are seeing transpiring in Dominica, that it all boils down to literally bread and butter. Yes, Jason, keep trying. I'm just having a conversation with the audience while you're trying to get back in. We can hear you. Try again. We can't see you, but I heard you for a minute. So keep trying while we just kind of engage in with the audience and see how they're feeling about everything. Krista, Prosper, I see you. Rosman, Ismail, I see you. And I think what is also very concerning is just the activities that is surrounding the elections. When we hear the type of music, I'm sure by now you've seen that video that has gone viral. Well, one of them I posted with the young lady. I think it got something like 7,000 views, with the young lady asking for her cool out money. And the other one was with the young man talking about drinking his rum and I won't use that word, but it's another Creole word for sex. So I think that is one of the things that is really quite unnerving for a lot of folks in terms of what is going on during this election cycle. So what are your thoughts? What are you thinking with regards to what can be done to stop this election process? Because I think that is where we are, right? We're not really concerned at this juncture with what could have been done, what should have been done, who was prepared, who should have been prepared, and they're not. And we're not concerned with whose pants is down, because let's face it, at the end of the day, the only real victims are Dominica. The only real victims are Dominicans, who, many of which have to go through another 5 years of lack of opportunity. And in my mind, what we should be seeing in Dominica is an enabling environment, an environment where people feel that they have the ability to earn their living, an environment of independence. And speaking of which, I'm going to do a program on my Q95 program in a little while. And we're going to talk about independent thinkers, critical thinkers, because far too many times I listen to folks and all I hear are people simply regurgitating what someone on a political platform has said, someone on a radio program has said. So I think there is a need to begin the ability to be critical thinkers. Let's bring Jason back in and let's have him join the conversation. Jason, we're back at it. We're going to keep trying this until we get it right. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, your internet seems to be quite unstable. I'm not sure. When you were in the kitchen area, it was a lot better. When you were sitting at the kitchen table, it was a lot better. So I'm not sure if you can move over to that side while I engage the audience, because we really want to hear from you. We really want to hear your plans, how you planned on funding everything that you have going on. So try to see if you can move over to the kitchen area and we will try you again. Yes, guys. So back to what I was saying, and I think the other program that I'm going to do is just in terms of being independent, because I think we're seeing a lack of independence in Dominica, where the lack of independence is independence of thought, right? And I'm so happy to see everyone who's here. Don't forget to share the live. Let everyone know that we're here. We're trying to engage with Mr. Jason Fontaine out there in La Plaine, but his internet is just acting up. But we have so much to talk about. We have so much to talk about with regards to what can be done. So what are your thoughts? What can be done? Or is it just simply too late? And it is time to just throw our hands in the air and say, well, Labor gets another election, right? Is that the only option at this point? I think there's some sort of litigation going on, but is it too late to consider those things? Let's see who we have with us. Thank you guys for being here. Philip Xavier, let's see, Helen Adams, Leslie Charles, Joy Laura, Shanna George, Frances Vidal, Magali John Jules. And let's also see what you're saying on the Facebook Live, because this is the kind of conversations I am all about. I want to talk about how can we move Dominica forward. And I think for far too long, what we are seeing is just, handouts by there and handouts by there, and no real opportunity to have people in an enabling environment where they feel that they can have their own jobs, have their own opportunities, send their children to school freely. And in my mind, that is what the elections boils down to, right? Where is my next dollar coming from? When I open the cupboards and I have no job, who can I call on to get that dollar, to get food in my stomach? That is what it boiled down to. And I have to tell you, I was so surprised. I think it was last evening to hear the Prime Minister chastising his own PAL reps. And the other thing I found very surprising is, I don't remember which minister it was, but she said something so interesting that I had to pause for a minute, because she said something that we've always talked about in my family. The fact that in the 90s, when we were growing up, I had no idea who my PAL rep was. And she said it in a way to make it sound like, well, now the PAL reps are all accessible and they're there for you and they're willing to meet with you, open door policy. And I took it a completely different way. And you can tell me if you agree with me or not. I took it in the sense that, well, I didn't know my PAL rep because I did not need to know my PAL rep. My parents didn't need to know our PAL reps because we were independent. Because the people who are looking for the PAL reps are looking for them for a favor. I mean, nobody is looking for the power up just to say, hey, how are you? How is your day going? I hope your family is well. No, the people are looking for the power ups for a favor, right? So when she said, oh, we have an open door policy, everybody knows their power up and knows who to call, I'm thinking, that's actually not a good thing. Because it is actually better when folks feel that they're independent, they can stand on their own 2 feet, and they do not need to be knocking on a power rep's door. They do not need to feel obligated to find a power rep to be able, going back to bread and butter, for their bread and butter, right? And I also think that it was quite surprising last evening. And tell me what you think. It was quite surprising last evening, and I hope Jason can join us, but we have so much to talk about that I just figure I would engage with you for a little while. I found it was so surprising to hear the Prime Minister chastising his own parliament, chastising his own cabinet, I should say, with regards to, if you're not responding to the people, well, actually, the people should not be so dependent on the power rep, right? If the people were independent and they had jobs and they could stand on their own 2 feet, maybe the power reps could actually focus on the projects and the programs and the ideas that I keep hearing about. So why don't we create a situation where people feel more independent and enabling environment where folks feel they can invest in Dominica, right? And we have the ability to create our own jobs, or we have the ability to stand on our own 2 feet so that there would be no need to chastise the power reps for not being readily available. And quite frankly, I think this whole thing about bashing the power reps and bashing this one and bashing, that's not going to take us anywhere. So why don't we start having conversations about how do we move Dominica forward? How do we stop this election and how do we move Dominica forward? Because, I think what is kind of hard for us to swallow at this point, and I see your comments, I'm going to come and take your comments in just a little while. Let me see if Jason can try to come back in just one more time, because I think he's having internet problems. So let me ask him to come back in one more time. But I think, I just think that folks thought that they had time. And in my mind, I'm thinking from the moment the 2019 election was done, the planning should have begun, right? So just because there's electoral reform supposedly in the cards, we don't have to be urgent. I just think I always find, and let me know if you agree, I always find that with us Dominicans, there's this lack of urgency. There's this lack of urgency. I do this Roots Connections program on Q95. 2 hours of free promotion for most people who come on. If you have a business, it's an opportunity to have your face out there, to have your product out there. Even if you're speaking on a topic, right? People are getting to know you. People are getting to know your name. People are getting to associate your brand. And that is why I always commend folks like Jody Dublin, because I can WhatsApp Jody today and say, hey, Jody, you want to come on the program tomorrow? Bam, she's ready. But there is a general lack of urgency that I am finding with our Dominican folks. And I say that because I try to be proactive. So if I have a program coming up in 3 weeks, I'm going to send you a WhatsApp, an email, at least 2 weeks out. I send you an email and you will not believe me. There are many people who will wait until the day before Roots Connections on Wednesday to email me back and say, oh, I have a couple of questions. No, it's too late. So I simply thank them for their correspondence. And I say, well, other folks have already taken up the spot because it is 2 hours of potentially free promotion for you and your brand to be on Q95 radio. And in everything, I'm starting to realize that there's a lack of urgency in Dominica. So I'm going back to the fact that after the 2019 elections, the engine should have started to prepare for the next elections. Because, first of all, we all know that the prime minister is the only one who has the power to call the elections. So you have no clue when he's going to call this election, but yet you have no sense of urgency. And I'm not calling names, I'm speaking in general terms. You have no sense of urgency knowing that the prime minister can call the elections at any point during his term, right? So why now are we surprised that, quote unquote, folks are not prepared? Because we should have been preparing since December 2019 in my mind. We should have been preparing since December 2019 in terms of having all our I's dotted, all our T's crossed with regards to when the election was going to be called. And I don't think anyone can blame us for the fact that, we expected some integrity. That if we're saying another election should not be called without reform from the CCJ or Sir Dennis Byron, I think that is where the importance of integrity comes in. That if you're making a promise to the people to have electoral reform within 100 days of the elections, that should have been the plan. But in politics, it doesn't seem like there's any morality, right? I think what we're sadly realizing right now is that in politics, there ought not to be morality. So while many of us are interested in playing on an equal playing ground, following the rules, I'm a rule follower, right? So I would have probably been caught in the same situation if I was basing my decision on morality. But many of us might be interested in following the rules. Not everyone is built of the same cloth. And I think that is the rude awakening that we are seeing right now. So I want to make sure I am taking your comments and seeing who is joining us. Wow, we have quite an audience. So thank you for being here. Let's see who's here. Deanne Roberts. Norenia, I need my glasses. I keep not wearing my glasses and then I can't see nothing. So let's see who's joining us. Let's see. Nazia Gamble is here. Thank you for being here. Marilyn Pascal. So guys, let me know what you think. LaFoy Julian. And again, we were hoping to have Jason Fontaine on with us. He made several attempts to be a part of the program, but unfortunately, his internet is acting up. So I just thought we would take a minute to engage with each other this afternoon. In Claire, great to see you. Carol Olivache Bruni, nice to see you. Will Charles, Wendy Williams, Commodore, let's see what it says. Well, you are so right. There is no sorry in war. Octave Mike says, but the people should be able to trust their leaders, right? Earl Bruno, great to see you. Yes, absolutely. The people should be able to trust their leaders. But here's my question to you. How many times does someone have to show you that they're not trustworthy before you believe them? How many times does someone have to show you that they're not trustworthy, whether it's the bin bubble, whether it's the missing money, allegedly, right? How many times does someone have to show you that they are not trustworthy. And what is the expression? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. By now, how many times have we been fooled? Right? And yet we're going to do this all over again. So, guys, in my mind, it literally boils down to bread and butter, right? Whoever has the bread and the butter and can feed me for tomorrow, I don't have time to think about long-term plans. What long-term plans do I have time to think about when I'm hungry? My children are hungry. I don't know how I'm paying my rent. Do you think I have time to think about long-term plans and development for Dominica? No, I don't have time to think about that because I need to ensure that my primary needs, what is it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or maybe bring out the psychology in me. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, our basic needs always come before anything else. So if people do not know where their bread and butter is coming from, whoever has the bread and butter is the one who gets the votes. Let's see what everybody else is saying. So let me take some comments. And again, we do apologize that Jason was unable to be a part of the program, but I do appreciate everyone who stopped by to engage in this conversation. So Viva Mamo, all of a sudden, Dominicans are so legally minded and morally bankrupt. The obsession with the legality of the election has taken precedent over what is the right moral thing in the best interest of Dominica. And guys, this is what I want, because I see these Facebook Lives and I'm enjoying the opportunities to hear from different voices. But I always find that the folks in the audience are making such tremendous contributions, but their views are never read. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, why are you having a monologue? Yes, you're providing good information, but the point of coming on Facebook Live is to engage the audience, right? So I always want to make sure that when I do these programs, that I give you an opportunity to have your voice heard, that I read your comments, that I take into consideration your thoughts and your concerns. So I'm very happy that you're posting them. And anybody who wants to join me on a Facebook Live, because, I don't do monologues. Well, I'm doing it now, but that's only because Jason happened to not be available. But anyone who's interested in having a conversation, sharing a different thought about what is going on, a different view about what is going on in Dominica, I would be more than happy to engage you in a conversation. So let's take some more comments. Octave, Eagle Mike, but it's not over. A lot of mobilization is going on behind the scenes. I am so happy to hear that. Mike, Nariana says, good afternoon, madam. Good afternoon to you. Let's see, Octave Mike, you're right. Philip Xavier, I'm crying for my country and village. Philip, I think we all share your sentiments that we are crying for our country and we are crying for the villages that we come from. Because when I listen and I hear one of the ministers saying, I'm not calling anybody's name, but I hear one of the ministers says, Dominica has no resources. He said it. I'm not telling you what I heard somebody told me he said. I heard it with my own ears. He said, Dominica has no resources, so there was no other option but to sell passports. Do you agree with that? Do you agree? And we're having a conversation, me and my 46, 42 members who are here with me, and the hundreds, potentially thousands of viewers who will see this program. Do you agree that Dominica has no resources? I had to pause when he said that because I could not believe what he just said. Land, water, fertile ground, right? I just did a program on agro-processing. Maybe he should have said, we're not interested in harnessing the resources that Dominica has. It is too labor intensive, right? It takes too much effort. So, nah, we're not going to do that. But to say Dominica has no resources, and I'm always astonished when I hear these comments and I hear the crowd applauding, and I'm thinking, did you just hear what he said? He said, we have nothing. Look at St. Kitts, that dry piece of rock. Sorry, St. Kitts, but you are a dry piece of rock. Antigua, dry piece of rock. I lived in Antigua for over a year. I know what I'm talking about. And yet they're doing so much better than Dominica, right? With the abundance of everything, not to mention the abundance of talent and educated people that we have in Dominica. To come on a platform and say Dominica has no resources, I was utterly insulted. And I'm sure if you heard that conversation, you too, you were utterly insulted. So let's take some more comments because you guys are my guests today. I always have a guest, but you guys are my guests today. In Claire, fear not, all things must come to pass. Slavery was legal. Was it moral? Wow, great question, great contribution in Claire. Usila James, he has nobody else to chastise. Shanna George, they love the cool out. Yeah, I think some people were getting nervous that they weren't going to get their cool out, their handout for the election because there was no competition. And I just want to say, hats off to everyone who threw their hats in the race because I certainly see the logic behind trying to ensure that the Prime Minister and the Labour Party did not simply sweep the election on what day was nomination day? Friday, because that's what would have happened. That if no one contested, the elections would have won. And I know I get the whole thing about, well, why try to legitimize his illegitimate elections? But I just think that by having some independent folks be nominated, it kind of just gives us some time. It buys us some time to see what can be done to stop these elections. Because I personally do not think that we should be calling an election in the middle of the electoral reform process. I mean, I think that is where a lot of anger comes from with Dominicans, that we thought we were in the middle of an electoral reform process, and then all of a sudden we hear elections are being called. So I go back to the question, how many times does someone have to show you that they're not trustworthy before we believe them? So that is a question that many of us have to ask. Doggy Natsa over there on YouTube, thank you for joining us. But it's much more than bread and butter. People should always be able to have access to the person they voted into office. Oh, absolutely. I completely agree that we should have access. But my point is, maybe there would not be so much of a need for access if people were not so needy. So yeah, I would love to know I have access to the PAL rep if I have a project for my community that I think can employ many of us in my community. If I have an idea for the country that I probably want you to take to the Prime Minister, absolutely. But if I am wanting access to the PAL rep, because I don't know how I'm paying my rent, I don't know how I'm buying groceries, I don't know how I'm getting uniform for my children to go to school, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. So maybe our goal this election cycle, after all this is said and done, is to see how we can cut back on the need for accessing the PAL rep, on the need for having to call the PAL rep. And how does that work, guys? I really want somebody to explain to me. How does this work? So I call the PAL rep this month because my rent is coming up. I need groceries. I need school fees. I need bus fare, right? And we all know how quickly a month goes by. So I do that. And then what happens next month? Do I go back and call the power up again? So I'm in, maybe I shouldn't just not have to call the power up because the power up already knows I don't have a job. So maybe the power up should just say, you know what? Let me just go ahead and give Simone money here and money there and money here because I know she's going to call me. And that is what the problem is. That creates a problem, not just because it shows the stark need for people to have to call the power rep, but it also ties up the power rep. And I see these young, energetic folks on the stage dancing and talking about, they're ready for the job. But when you're inundated with all those phone calls from needy people who genuinely have no money, have no way of providing for their family, I mean, that's all you're spending your day doing. You're spending your day. No wonder they're trying to hide because they need a minute to breathe. You're spending your day probably saying the same thing. No, boy, I speak to the PM. We know I don't have anything for you now. No. Instead of spending your day with all the bright ideas that you came into the office with, all the great plans for your constituency, they have to go by the wayside because you're spending your entire day either taking phone calls and not being able to provide or dodging people because you're tired of being bombarded by phone calls. Let's go back to the comments because it's me and you. You're my audience today. You're my you're my guest today, and I thank you for being here. Augustina, hello, Dr. Matthew. Greetings to you from Brampton, Ontario, Canada. Nice to see you again. I'm watching and listening. Hi, Augustina, nice to see you. Octave, Dominicans at home, always sleeping. Xavier, Philip, the printer business didn't make no money. Yep, Doggy MM, like now, for instance, people should be telling the representative that if you take part in this election, although it is legal, but without the reforms promise, will not vote. Thank you for that. Augustina, it is so sad. Our Mad Dominic is in turmoil. Octave, but it's a shame to see that so many people in Dominica just agree to forget about jobs and wait for the PM to go around the world and beg to bring them cool out. Commodore, well, you said it right. There is no sorry in war. Octave, but the people should be able to trust their leaders, right? Yeah, I got that one already. Oh, Bruno, great to see you. Good afternoon, Doc. Dr. Margaret Wallace-Traffy. We're not tripping today, Doc. We're serious. Hi, Doc. Nice to see you. Earl says, good evening to all. Commodore 22 times. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Octave, so it goes back to the people. Philip, if I was living in La Plaine, according to voting policy, I would run for the new party or independent candidate. Usila, some Dominicans care less. Oh, Bruno, in Dominica, it's the people that now have to trust themselves. Octave, like I always say, before people was about country, but now it's about self. What can you do for them in that moment? Yes, it has to be about self because there is a hierarchy of needs. And I'm happy that Dr. Triff with me because she can confirm what I'm saying. There is a hierarchy of needs that if your very basic needs are not met, you cannot focus on your other needs, right? So if I am hungry, my children are hungry, I can't focus on trying to pursue an advanced degree. I can't focus on self-actualization where, I have reached the top of the pinnacle and it's all crystal clear, the meaning of life, the meaning of the world around us and all that good stuff. I can't get to that point. I can't get to that point because I am focused on the fact that I am hungry and children are hungry, right? So let's see who else we have, guys. Thank you so much for being here, Commodore. The only resource they're interested in is the passport. Yep. Doggy says, no, we should never sell our passport. Well, too soon, too late. Soon, very soon, we will see the error of our ways. Thing is all those we hold in high esteem in Dominica, all of them seem to be benefit from this. Augustina, ministers with no vision whatsoever. So guys, if you're interested in ever joining me on a conversation, you can always email me at pushpast10.com, pushpast10.com if you want to be a part of the conversation. T-ball, exactly. No interested in harnessing our resources, but when foreigners come and we show us how to maximize our resources, we vex we. I couldn't agree more. Doggy says we're not voting. That's your right. Oh, Bruno, whenever you need me on your program, I will be available. Oh, that's great to know, Earl. Please send me a message through Messenger, or you can email me at pushpast10@gmail.com. I don't have a contact number for you, but you can always reach out to me. Octave, something told me there might not be an election. Well, Octave, I think many people are hoping that you are correct, that there will not be an election, because I just think we want to see a fair and equal playing ground, right? So I think that we don't have a problem with elections, but I just think at this point, people are shocked, right? That is the sense I'm getting. Like we're still in this haze, this fog. Like, wait, is this really happening? Right? I think that is what a lot of us are experiencing. And Dr. Triffy, I think you might call that trauma. I think a lot of us are experiencing, wait, what just happened? What just happened? Because that is the last thing we expected the prime minister to come and announce. I was like with everybody else thinking, oh, it's so nice. He's coming on to talk about the flooding and the landslides on the East Coast and how we're going to come together as a community and take care of our brothers and sisters on the East Coast. Jamais pas. Nam la vini di nou court election, we. I said, what? Wait, what? Barely said anything about the flooding and the landslide, and instead called a snap elections. So I think that is what many of us were quite upset about. And then, very important that I have to remind you guys to join me on Wednesday, because our topic on Roots Connections, and if you miss it, you can always check Q95 FM radio YouTube channel for the playback, and on Facebook as well. We are talking about the changing mindset in Dominica. Do you believe that there's a changing mindset where people are going from being independent to dependent? What is the evidence, right? What is the evidence? Are we seeing evidence that there's a change in mindset? Can changing people's mindset be a political strategy? Let's go deep on this, guys. Let's go deep, right? Because too many times we have this like surface level conversations. We're giving this one mapui, we're giving that one mapui. Let's dig a little deeper. Can there be a political strategy to change people's mindset? You guys remember how they stripped us from everything when we came from Africa, right? And when we came, we Kalinago descendants, and we're all Kalinago descendants, whether you look like it or you don't, right? Do you remember how they stripped us of our clothing, our language, our cuisine, our culture, our traditions? Right? That was a strategy. That was a strategy. That wasn't something that just happened. Men literally sat down and said, oh, we're going to take them from Africa. And yes, the Africans had a role to play in it, I know. We're going to take them from Africa. We're going to bring them to this country. We're going to enslave them, and we're going to strip them from everything. Do you not see that is what is going on in Dominica? We have clothes. Yes, we have clothes. We have culture. We have tradition. But now the stripping, say they're stripping our mental capacity to make decisions, because again, when you're hungry, that's all you can think about. It's a new form of slavery. It's a new form of slavery to come up with a strategy that strips people of their ability to think for themselves, change their mindset. What independence? No, make them dependent. Keep them poor. Keep them hungry. Don't provide an enabling environment for them so that they can create their own opportunities and stop calling the power up. Right? Keep them dependent. Because when people are dependent on you, they have no choice but to keep voting you in. And that is just so sad. That is just so sad. Let's see. I have to keep taking the comments because you're my guest today, and I'm happy that you're joining me. Oh, Bruno, whenever you need me on a oh, we talked about that one already. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm getting all the comments. Octave, they just want to see the pirate for cool out. Oh, my sister is here. Breathe. Nice to see you. Where are all the institutions that should be in place to take care of the issues in the constituencies? Yeah, where are all the institutions? And Brie, even more importantly, where are the village councils? What's going on with the village councils? Can anyone help me with this? Because as far as I know, the village councils are what is responsible for taking care of the needs of the village. So why are people not going to the village councils in regards to, well, what can we do about creating job opportunities in our area? But instead, they're going straight to the power rep. So does that mean that the village council and all the other institutions in our areas have no value? So what is the purpose of having them then? So they can be a part of the political machine, right? Thank you, guys. Octave, but the PM can't fire a power rep. He can only fire a minister. Bree, the PM said the constituents should be able to WhatsApp the power reps. Really? Don't get me started again. Adelaide, you deja changed beggar's mindset in existence a long time. Octave, it was a political strategy, and it will take a while to change it back. And that is exactly what I always say, Octave. We're so concerned about changing the government, but my deeper concern is the mindset of the people and how it has changed the mindset of the people to the point where people don't even know how to be independent anymore, right? They don't even know how to try to get housing by themselves anymore, because all we've taught them, and think about 22 years of a government, an entire generation of young people have grown up only knowing dependency. Why am I an independent person? Why am I able to stand on my own to take care of my family and everything? I saw my mother do it. My mother has never begged $1 in her lifetime, right? Medina Senhouse, in case you're wondering. Yes, that's my mother, Baphosit, right? Never begged $1. Always taught us to be independent, right? To have pride. Yet I go home to Dominica and it's so easy. Oh, leave that for Mina. Leave your shoes for Mina. Leave your clothes for Mina. And I'm like, what? I never experienced that growing up in Dominica. We had family come from overseas all the time. And not once did any of us say, beg them to leave this, beg them to leave that, because it was not in our nature. It was not in our mindset. But yet, this is what we have created in Dominica. So I'm going to continue to tune in to all the programming. I'm going to continue looking for those answers about what can be done to stop the election, because I think what we are seeing is that everybody would like to see this independence, this election called on an equal playing field, so that everyone has an opportunity. And I just listened to the usual commentators, and everyone is sounding defeated. Everyone is sounding tired. Everyone is sounding frustrated. And in reality, they should be, because this is a lot. This is a lot to take in. But my concern, going back to the sense of urgency, when are we going to learn as a people to have that sense of urgency, that we have to take the bull by the horn from day one? So now, after this election goes through, and potentially it's going to go back to the Labour Party, despite our best efforts, if the election goes through, are we now going to sit back and simply criticize what has happened, what should be done? Boy, we love to talk about what should be, what should be, what should be, what should be. Or are we going to this time jump in? And like my husband always says, if you stay prepared, you never have to get prepared. If you stay prepared, you never have to get prepared. We have to be prepared. If we think that this government can be removed through the political process, even now we have to start planning for the next general election, because the opposition parties have decided to not contest the elections. So now everybody should be in the war room to plan for the next general election, because now we know that it can be held 2 years from now. There's no guarantee that it's going to go to 5 years, right? So what is the strategy now, today, November 20th, to ensure that come the next election, we are prepared? Because that is how you win a battle. You don't win a battle if you're in a war when the enemy is knocking on your door and you're like, oh my God, where did I put my gun again? Where did I put my shield again? Where did I put my bazooka again? No, you keep all your ammunition at your front door, so that anytime the enemy is at your door, you're ready to fire. So if there's one thing that I want us to take away from this conversation, and I want to thank everyone who provided a comment, a feedback, a question. Let me make sure I'm not missing anyone. I want to thank everyone who joins me today for what should have been a conversation with, Dr. Finn, I saw you earlier, a conversation with Jason Fontaine. And I'm looking to speak to some of the other independent candidates just to see, where their mind is, where their head is, in terms of if they do feel that they could potentially win their seat, potentially win a seat in parliament, a seat in their constituency, to make a difference. Because I think somebody said it right, that now the entire parliament is going to be the Labour Party. And yes, we've heard, we will select someone from the business community, the church community. Really? And that is how we will have these dissenting voices. Really? Anyway, but thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday. Let's see what Elliot says when the CBI money runs out, and it will. It is going to be very difficult for these PAL reps and future leaders. Yeah, T-ball. I have to say that I see some shifts in populace. People are speaking out openly that can build momentum. Look at Trump and the Republicans. Their misdirected anger made them too bold. And when the followers were held accountable, they started realizing that DT will leave them out to dry. Oh, Bruno, is there already the money cutting down? Yes, the money is cutting down. I'm assuming you're talking about the passport sales. Philip, amen to village council vibes. Rupert, village council? The people are so politically divided that they fight each other for Scarat. I didn't call him that. Scarat unilaterally selects the candidates for every constituency. Tell me who in La Plaine decided that they didn't want Kent anymore after 3 years. Tell me who in St. Joseph constituency decided that they didn't want Addis King. Lady, don't feel sorry for these slaves. Oh boy, that's kind of harsh, but thank you, Rupert. Shekinia, the way I see it now is the youth that have the country so don't care mentally, and they keep voting this heartless man all the time. T again, we never know. More people are speaking out. That could build momentum. Scared is more desperate than ever to escape accountability. He will continue to stumble. They'll turn against each other like Republicans. Clyde Gregoire, great to see you. True. Octave, one of the first things this government did was to destroy all institutions. Shikenya, village council eating all the money, their hands deep in the cookie jar. And who can blame them? Who can blame them for putting their hand in the cookie jar? Because I think what we're seeing is that when your leader is morally bankrupt, what does that do for the populace? When you're seeing people getting away with this and getting away with that, then guess what? The people are going to say, well, if the crime is good for them, it's good for me too. What can I grab? They're grabbing their piece of Dominica, and I need my piece of Dominica too, right? T says, oh, I love that. If you stay prepared, you never have to get prepared. Oh, Bruno, remittances almost have more power than passports. Clyde, you cannot plan for an election if there's no reform. Really? Doggy, call a national survey or referendum to make it law that general elections should be given a fixed date. Octave, life favors the prepared. Lisanne, showing full support for my brother Jason. Lisanne sent you a message as well. Okay, I'll take a look. Octave, for anyone to win Labor in any constituency, they will have to get support from worker supporters. So guys, thank you so much. I do apologize that Jason's internet simply would not allow him to connect today. He did try several times. Let me see if he WhatsApped me. He did try several times to be a part of the program, and we were so looking forward to hearing from him. But I'm happy that we had this conversation, that you came in with your questions, your comments, your concerns, because we all do genuinely have questions and concerns. So don't forget, follow Push Past 10, click the notification button to let us to know when we will be live. Don't forget, my Q95 program, Roots Connections on Q, is every second and fourth Wednesdays of the month from 8 to 10 Dominica time, because the time has changed for us. So again, Roots Connections, I'll be on this Wednesday, November 3rd, and November 3rd. Can you tell I'm fully Dominican? November 23rd. So we will be on Wednesday, November 23rd, and we're going to talk about the changing mindset of Dominica. So I will be looking for everyone who is here today on this Facebook Live. I will be looking for you on the Facebook Live on Wednesday on Push Past 10. So again, thank you for being here. I am Simone Matthew, and we will continue to have those conversations that help to move Dominica, the Caribbean, our folks at home, our folks in the diaspora. I hate that word. Our folks abroad. that helps to move us forward in one way or the other. So until then, you have yourself a pleasant Sunday evening and you take care until we meet again. Thank you for being here.